Hi,
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here. How are you?
Man, I am blessed as well. Again, shout out to Be White. Man, this is just lovely to see the people you've brought together and connected. DJ Tonto have not missed yet. Brother is nice. But we only got 20 minutes, so I really want to jump all the way in. For everybody that doesn't know me, my name is Justus Cox. I am a fourth grade teacher, also a podcast host, and also a mentor, 501c Young Brothers Academy here in Greenville, South Carolina. But it's not about me. We have somebody very, very special. Let me go ahead and say I done stalked you ever since I found out was about to have this conversation. So I feel like I know you already. So just let the people know who you are. We're gonna jump in.
So I am Lauren Lomeli Miller. I am originally from Atlanta, Georgia. Shout out to the last guy on the last session. I'm from SWAT. I am a second generation business owner, fifth generation entrepreneur. I'm a podcast host. I teach a lot about legacy building and wealth creation. I teach government contracting. I have my own business, LR Miller and Co., which is a portfolio of brands that serve millennials through online education, media, merch, and experiences. And yeah, I do a whole lot of shit.
A whole lot of everything, and we're gonna talk about we're gonna hit on a little piece of all of that. And so, like in my stalking process, I've been watching your interviews as well, and that's why I didn't hit you up without any like pre questions or anything, because I already knew you was more of the go with the flow type person.
Yeah.
You do this, you know what I'm saying? So, talking about the title of this, I'm the only one.
Mhm.
How many generations did you say?
I'm technically fifth generation entrepreneur. Yeah.
First of all, so I don't think people understand how big that is. And we're going to get into the story behind that. But recently I had a chance to go to Ghana.
Oh.
And just during that time, I realized how disconnected we were from our history. And so
Mhm.
seeing that, like, we don't have like hundreds of years of family and things to look back into. We only have from when we was brought over here. So how is that for you? You know what I'm saying? Being in a position of receiving something passed down to you.
Well, I would say this. So I'm a fifth generation entrepreneur, but I'm a second generation business owner. So me being the fifth generation entrepreneur comes from the first three generations were farmers. My dad left the farm to start his own business in Atlanta, and now I have inherited his company. So that's why I'm second generation business owner, but technically fifth generation entrepreneur, if that makes sense.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. Man,
Yeah.
beautiful. And so even going along with the title, I'm the only one. Not many people of us African American inherit a situation, that you have. And I know that has to place you in a sense of isolation mentally. Because you don't have very many people. I know you said this on your pod that you can seek, and it's not a book written for you. You know,
Right.
your family is writing the book, and hopefully, this 20-minute conversation will be the introduction to the documentary that you're doing. Just let us know whenever that drops. But just going into that, like how do you deal with that pressure of being the only one?
It's a lot of pressure. You know what I mean? Like, you know, dealing with like this inherited responsibility with like my own sets of dreams and aspirations. One of the things that I have to remind myself and remind others is like when we're talking about generational wealth, you can't be so overwhelmed to believe that all the wealth has to be created in your generation. It's
Right.
called generational wealth, right? So understanding that there are going to be certain seeds that you plant that you're not going to be able to bear, you're not going to experience the fruit of. Your kids will experience that fruit. And so it's up to you to just do your part. And so I have to constantly remind myself that like, Lauren, like I'm only tasked with doing what I can do in my generation. And, my goal is to secure the next 100 years. But, what does that look like for me? So I even think about like, I would say our legacy in entrepreneurship and sense of self sufficiency started with my great great grandfather when he bought 800 acres of land, right? So that was his contribution to the family legacy, if you will. And that was his, right? Did he have to buy 800 acres and start 5 businesses and do this and do that? No, you know what I mean? Just that action has been the foundation of our family's wealth, entrepreneurship, and so forth. And so, yes, I am overwhelmed all the time, but at the same time, I'm like, I understand that I am one of many descendants that are tasked with securing this. You know what I mean? And as long as I get my job done with the baton while it's in my hand, that's all I can ask for.
And it's crazy. I just threw my notebook down with my questions because you went right into what I was thinking. You talked about those seeds that you plant. And obviously, you know how the seeds were planted way before you even thought of. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? So I kind of like how Instagram and Facebook gives you the memories of like 9 years ago, shows you the pictures. And I seen on your Instagram how you've been doing this, you know what I'm saying, for years. And it's just beautiful to see like the fruit of your labor. So my
Mhm.
next question would be, what are the seeds that you're planting right now? You know what I'm saying, that you're looking forward to harvesting?
So, one of the things that I think I'm in my family, I feel like I'm one of the first to actually document and share our story. Because oftentimes, we're not the first family that has legacy or this story, right? But oftentimes people that look like us who have, generational legacy or generational wealth, they retreat. We don't know what the blueprint is. We don't know their story. Like nobody speaks about it. And so for me, I'm hoping by sharing my story, by sharing, me continue to build these blocks, that I am showing what's possible to others, right? So it's hard to build shit that you ain't never seen before. It's hard to aspire to something you ain't never seen before. And so for me, like the seeds that I'm planting, I'm hoping that I am somewhat serving as a catalyst for other people to see what's possible when it comes to legacy building, legacy creation, and really, showing millennials like what it really is to start, secure, and build legacy, right? And because of the experience that I went through, I'm such an advocate for this because I went through succession planning for 4 years of my father. But one of the things that I learned from that is like death and sickness should not trigger succession planning, right? And also like the negative connotation around like, oh, I don't want to plan for end of life because I don't want to bring death on me. But it's like we need to change that thinking in terms of like legacy planning is not about death. It's like where do we want our family to be in 50 years, 100 years? And so a part of the seed that I'm planning is to like change the narrative around this conversation to really give people a framework and a foundation to really start to understand like how do you build generational wealth, and then how you secure it, right? Because oftentimes like you on Instagram people are talking about build wealth, build wealth, build wealth, but if you ain't nurturing the next generation or you haven't taught your kids how to secure it, they gonna fumble that bag. You know what I mean? And so that's another aspect of what I speak to because oftentimes I am a lot of my peers' future kids. You know what I mean? In a way. And so I'm able to give a perspective of what ideally a lot of my peers' future kids will be going through, because they are the ones that are creating wealth for the first time in their family. So
Man, like I'm saying, 20 minutes is not enough. But man, like it's definitely just awesome to hear and just hearing some things that you were saying and it got me thinking. So being the only one, B White always talks about universal language. And
mhm,
so obviously you're in a position in life where you're speaking a different language than most of maybe so your peers.
mhm,
And so how is that I guess shaped your view on like relationships? Not even just like romantic, but like your
mhm.
interactions with people. You being at a different level, not saying above them mentally, but perceiving things differently than they might.
Well, I will say, like my dad used to always say, Lauren, we're no better than anybody else. We're just different. And so you have to use that difference to help people that look like you. And so that's how I see it, right? It's like I'm no better than anybody else because the reality is, you know, the people who are like, well, I don't come from shit, like I'm first generation. Like we're living in a country that put laws, amendments in place to keep you from building wealth, right? So you cannot own that guilt or own, well, my parents didn't go through this. So I don't ever want anybody to feel less than when I talk about my story, right? And then also beyond that is like what I've been telling people is oftentimes we do think that we're first, but we're really in a category of restoration. A lot of us don't know our history. So you don't even know if you had a great uncle that had a corner store business, or if you don't know if somebody bought 10 acres of land. And that's a part of my mission too, is to encourage us to learn our history so you can draw from that, right? And be empowered by that. That is like, okay, everybody in my family, you may be the only one, but you may have had some great cousin, fifth remove, that had the same mindset as you, and you can draw. That's your ancestor that you connect with, right? So in terms of the mindset, I do sometimes feel guilty in a way because I have been blessed to like know this information and to like, be in this position. So it's like, why me and not, the next person? And sometimes I'm like, I'm kind of restless because I want all of the knowledge that I know to be out in the world. You know what I mean? Because I feel like to harbor it, I just don't feel, it just doesn't feel good. I'm a humanitarian at heart. So anything that I have done in life has been an extension of me using myself to help other people and to serve other people. So if anything, it's more like a sense of urgency, like, you don't know about this, let me tell you. You haven't heard about this, let me tell you. And that's kind of how I approach it, because it's a blessing. God has blessed me to be in this position, and I don't take it for granted. Yeah, and like I said, I can't please everybody, but my hope is like that I don't make anybody feel that they're not worthy or they're not less than because this is my track record, right? So we talk about white privilege all the time. So for me, it's like me recognizing my privilege, and instead of being like, oh, cool, I got this privilege, how am I going to use that privilege to help other people?
Definitely, and that's, man, it sounds like Pops instilled some true values into you, um,
Mm-hmm.
and also letting you see that comes with work.
Mm-hmm.
Not just like even hearing you, like not even saying it might be typical for people who born with money to be made snobbish. You know what I'm saying? But it's beautiful that as a Black woman, like you're put in a position to give back and you want to,
Right.
and balancing the business that you were left with and the businesses that you have now. Where do you find time for yourself?
Huh. And I just want to make a disclaimer. I am not a trust fund kid. So one of the things in our family, like in terms of how we pass down wealth, is like we'll leave you something to work with. Like you don't just get a check because your last name.
Mm.
So where there's land, you're getting passed down. You got to work that land to make money. And if it's a business, it's just like a car. If you don't put gas in that car to go get the bag, then that car's just gonna collect dust in the driveway, right? So, and that's another way you preserve legacy. Like you don't just get because you my son. You don't just get because, you know what I mean? Because people will fumble that bag if there's no skin in the game. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure I scooted that in there. But in terms of like time, I think that is probably my biggest challenge, is like finding the balance. Because I like working, you know what I mean? And I think a part of me liking to work is because I work for myself and I'm working on a mission that I feel is bigger than myself. So there's always this sense of urgency. But I'm also realizing that like, girl, you need to you got to find some balance because you will run yourself, rugged. And so now I am kind of like I've been in this transitional period for a while because I went through the 4 years of succession planning with my dad. Then he passed. So I had to grieve. And, this is my first time being stable and secure in entrepreneurship. So there's a lot of like me getting to know myself, and also like, what do I like to do? What are my hobbies and how much time do I want to dedicate to that? So, I will say that I haven't quite figured out the balance yet. It is a uphill battle. And I don't really know if you ever really get to that total equilibrium. And if you do, I don't even know how long that should even last,
I'm
right?
glad you said that. I'm glad you said that because I battle in my mind whether if balance is an illusion or not. Because we hear people talking about it, I don't think it exists.
I don't think it exists either. I think you can try to achieve more balance. I don't think there's ever a equilibrium, right?
Mm.
I think you learn how to balance better, right? But I think, and then just being mindful, like, in this year I was balancing the business, my personal life, and next year maybe something totally different, right? But I think for me it's just a lot of introspection to see like when am I most productive? When am I not most productive? When am I on E? When am I on full? Like, how do I need to manage? What work do I need to do when I'm on half a tank versus the type of work I need to be doing when I'm on E? Like, and so really that self reflection, which is work in itself, right? So sometimes you have to take yourself out of your day to day, out of your business to really see like, how do I function? So you can try to achieve a certain level of balance. But I'm with you. I don't think equilibrium, like, I don't think
Yeah,
that's what it is.
it's doggone near impossible. So
Yeah.
I love conversations like this, because it basically shoots down all them preconceived notions that you have in your mind. You stress yourself out searching for that balance, but understand that all these things are making us stronger. These obstacles in our lives. And so, how do you view obstacles now? Because of course they say new levels, new devils, and everything I guess in your lane wouldn't be considered perfect. So how do you view obstacles at this point in your life?
Um, as small hurdles, because I feel like the time when I was my father's caregiver, I feel like I went through hell, and I feel like anything that comes my way now is like a walk in the park. You know what I mean? When you go like during that time period, like with my father being ill, like finding him unconscious, all the ICU visits, like dealing with doctors, dealing with care team, while having to manage the business, while having to like do the succession planning, while knowing like having to keep your mind in place because your dad is still dying, right? So like going through 4 years of that, there's not one obstacle, dog, that could come my way that would make me even be like flinch, right? So to me, it's more so I realize like when shit happens, like, oh damn, my number's been called. It's like everybody number gonna get called. It's just a matter of when. So I don't ever feel like, oh shit, like woe is me. It's just like, damn, my number done got called again, the lottery. You know what I mean? And I've grown to realize that, these obstacles, they really are a sign that God love you. As hard as that shit is, as hard as it to like really digest and accept, it's just like, damn, you really do love me, but like, I don't know about all this tough love. Like, but
Uh,
to that, it's like, once you've gone through so much adversity, or especially if you've chosen the path of entrepreneurship, you done gotten comfortable with discomfort, that obstacles are just like, okay, it's just a part of life. You know what I mean? And I think, of course, I'm human just like everybody else. So it's like if a situation happens, like I'll sit in it, right? But it's like I can't stay at the goddamn pity party. Like I gotta get up and leave. I have a couple of minutes I gotta go. You know what I mean? So it's just at this point, it's just like it's just a indication that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
you walking in purpose.
Exactly.
That's beautiful, man. And so, with that being said, we all got these ideas of success. And if you're like me, and I feel like a lot of people that Be White is connected to, we have this sense of never really being satisfied.
Mhm.
There's always something more, that hunger. And so for you, what would it look like for you to reach that level of success, or I guess in a sense, contentment?
Um, I've oftentimes talk about Richard Branson because I feel like any idea he comes up with, he has the money to pursue it. And to me, that is where I want to get to the point where it's just like if I want to go to Antarctica and find out if there's this special fish that lives for 10 minutes under the water, I want to go do it. And so I've always been, I'm a very curious person. I'm addicted to learning. So for me, it's just getting to a point in life where I can feed my curiosity, whether that's with a business or with a project or nonprofit, and money's not an issue to do that. If I want to go give water to 50 million people, like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to get to that point um, where I can really, serve and it's not an issue and like really feed my mind. Cause I feel like that's really tapping into your childhood at that point. You know what I mean? And I try to tap into my childhood on a daily basis, but I feel like once you get to the point where it's like, you know what? I want to build a sandbox for adults outside. And you know what I mean? Just be doing it. Like that to me is a certain level of success. Of course, I have all of the shit that I've mapped out and dollar value, how many houses and properties and shit like that. That's like, but the grand beyond that, the grand utopia is just like, you know, having experiments and like trying to change the world for the better and having the bank account to do it.
Man, I hear you, and I'm all with that. And I'm glad you brought up your childhood. Because I want to my last question, your favorite childhood cartoon and why?
Childhood cartoon. Let's see. It's probably between Rugrats and Rugrats. Damn, I don't know. Magic School Bus, Rugrats, and Art. Oh man, this is tough. I'm
So
gonna stick with the Rugrats, man, because
why
it's
is that?
because I just like the characters, the sassiness, and they was always on a mission, always getting into shit. I was always getting into shit. And I think any time where kids are curious and like exploratory, like that's me because that was my childhood. So yeah.
That's beautiful, man. It has been an honor to sit and talk with you. Of course, my mind is curious as well, so I got 1,000 other questions that we could go into. But let the people know how to find you. How can they reach you?
So you can follow me on Instagram, lauren.rosa.miller. You can subscribe to my website and platform at laurenrosamiller.com. You can listen to my podcast, Walk Around Knowledge with Lomeli. I'm on Twitter and I'm on Clubhouse, Lomeli. So I'm either Lomeli or lauren.rosa.miller. So I go between my government and, my stage name.
Most definitely. And last but not least, I know how it always is. We either preparing for an interview, thinking through it, and we've got to the end. Is there anything like at this point, like you want to get out of your head, and then you wish you said last words type deal?
Um, I would just say anybody out there that is, contemplating building wealth, or you find yourself and it's like this is too hard. I don't want to be the one to break the curses. I'll be the one to say thank you, right? And as your future kids, your future descendants, to keep going, right? I never met my great great grandfather, and I'm still benefiting from what he did. And I would just say that you want somebody to be able to say the same thing about you. So stick with it. I know this shit get hard. Times are tough. But hard times don't last forever. And your descendants will be grateful for you holding on to whatever you holding on to, whatever you build and whatever you working on. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll leave you with that.
Man, amen, amen, and amen. The church, the doors of the church, you know what I'm saying, are now open. We'll be passing the collection plate around. But it has been an honor and it has been a pleasure. Thank you again for sitting down with me to talk about, our pursuit of our purpose.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy that I could be here today. And yeah, I'll be tuned in to what's next.
We out.